If a tree can die over and over again for 100 years and still refuse to actually leave, does it even count as dead? Stick with me on this one. Today, on Guess What I Found Out, we are looking at a species that used to number in the billions, now survives as a 500 million zombie stumps that can't reproduce, and might be kept alive by exactly 4 adult trees on the entire planet. By the end of this video, you will understand why scientists call something functionally extinct, and why that might honestly be sadder than just being gone. This is the American chestnut. Once upon a time, an estimated 4 billion of these trees covered nearly 200 million acres of eastern forest, from Maine down through the Appalachians. In some parts of Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Virginia, chestnuts made up as much as half of the entire forest canopy. They fed deer, turkeys, black bears, and passenger pigeons, an entire food web built around one incredibly reliable, incredibly abundant nut crop. In Appalachia, people called it a cradle-to-grave species, because chestnut wood built cribs, coffins, and pretty much everything a person needed in between. Rot-resistant, fast-growing, and everywhere. This tree was not just a tree, it was infrastructure. Then it got wiped out. Not slowly, not partially, but almost completely, in about 50 years. Let's give this thing a nickname, because it deserves one. Call it the sickly phoenix, a tree that keeps dying and keeps coming back, just never far enough back to actually live. Here is what happened. Back in the 1800s, someone imported ornamental chestnut trees from Asia for landscaping, and those trees carried a hitchhiker, a fungus now known as chestnut blight. Asian chestnuts evolved alongside this fungus, and, well, they just shrugged it off. American chestnuts, though, had 0 defenses. The fungus gets into the cambium, which is the tree's living layer just under the bark, and it essentially strangles the tree from the inside, eating away the tissue that keeps it alive. It is bleak, gruesome stuff, genuinely horror movie material. The blight was first identified in 1904 in New York. Foresters tried to hold a quarantine line to stop it from spreading south, but by the time it reached Georgia, they gave up on containment entirely. By 1950, it had torn through the tree's entire range. An estimated 4 billion trees died, and most of the big, old-growth chestnuts were gone within a single human lifetime. Here is the part that gets me. Drive through Pennsylvania or Virginia today, and you will still see plenty of forest. It looks fine from the road. But no one alive remembers what that forest actually looked like with chestnuts in it. The trees are gone, but so is the ecosystem that depended on them, quietly, without most people ever noticing the swap. If you want to feel something today, subscribe now, because this channel exists specifically to make you feel things about fungus. But here is where it gets stranger. The American chestnut is not actually extinct. There are roughly 430 million stems still out there on the landscape today. The catch is that chestnut blight only kills the parts of the tree above ground. The roots survive, and they keep sending up new sprouts, which grow for a while, get infected, die back, and resprout again. Some of these root systems are genuinely older than the blight itself, meaning a sprout you see today might be growing from the exact same roots that were alive before 1904. About 85% of those stems never even get thick enough to produce a nut before the fungus finds them again. It is a loop that can run for over a century without ever actually finishing. Which raises a real question, and I want your take in the comments. Is a species stuck in that kind of loop, unable to reproduce but refusing to fully die, worse off than a species that is simply gone? Tell me what you think and why. I am genuinely curious how people land on this one. Restoring the chestnut is slow, stubborn work, And it is happening on multiple fronts at once. Researchers with the American Chestnut Foundation search surviving trees for natural resistance, then test candidates by literally infecting them with the fungus and watching what survives. Good genetics get bred together, weak ones get cut, and the whole process repeats across generations of trees that take years just to mature enough to test. They are also crossbreeding American chestnuts with Chinese chestnuts, which evolved resistance over millions of years, trying to build a tree that is mostly American in form and behavior, but can actually fight back biologically. Some teams have pushed further into genetic engineering, inserting a wheat gene that produces an enzyme capable of neutralizing the toxin the fungus uses to kill tissue in the first place. That project hit a real setback in recent years, after data showed inconsistent resistance in the field, and a lab mix-up between two similarly named engineered tree lines led one major partner organization to pull its support. But the underlying science was not abandoned. It is still moving through federal regulatory review, and researchers are continuing to test other genetic lines. Nobody involved in this is pretending restoration is simple, and that is honestly kind of refreshing in a field full of overpromising. If you like watching scientists refuse to give up on something that should logically be gone by now, go check out our Sea Wolves episode, where an entire wolf population reinvented itself into something that technically counts as a marine mammal. Different kingdom, same stubborn refusal to just accept extinction as the final answer. And it is not only labs doing this work. Volunteers across the eastern United States hike through forests looking for surviving chestnuts, testing them one at a time, hoping to find genetics good enough to build a comeback around. It is unglamorous, unpaid, mosquito-filled work, and people keep showing up to do it anyway. One recently discovered tree in central Pennsylvania might be the largest surviving American chestnut in the state, a single tree carrying genetic information that 4 billion trees use to carry collectively. Every one of these finds gets logged, tested, and treated like it might matter, because at this population size, honestly, it might. Which brings us back to those 4 original survivors. Researchers currently know of about 4 adult American chestnuts that lived through the original Blight and are still standing today. 4 out of an original population in the billions. One of them was found growing quietly in a farmer's field. Nobody planted it there on purpose to make a point, it just survived. The same way the ancient icicle, our old friend the Greenland shark, has just quietly kept existing for centuries while the rest of the ocean changed around it. Some species do not announce their survival, they just refuse to stop. Functionally extinct is a strange kind of purgatory. The species is not gone, but it cannot really do what a species is supposed to do anymore: spread, reproduce, hold up its part of the ecosystem. It is not waving a flag or standing for anything symbolic. Restoration researchers are quick to point that out. What they actually care about is whether it can feed insects and wildlife again the way it used to. Researchers on this project openly say they will not see full success in their own lifetimes, and some of the trees planted today will not prove themselves resistant or vulnerable until long after the people who planted them are gone too. That kind of timeline does not fit our instant gratification brains very well, but there is something almost calming about a project built to outlast the people working on it. So that is the sickly phoenix, a tree that has been dying since before your great-grandparents were born and still has not actually given up. If a species can hang on that long against those odds, it deserves better than being quietly forgotten. Hit like, subscribe, and drop your comment down below on whether functional extinction is sadder than the real thing. I want to hear it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. See you there, Curious George.